Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
In an attempt to take or keep control of the House, my dear friend Jacob Soboroff went to one contentious district in California to find out what matters to voters there.
Los Angeles, downtown's Union Station probably isn't where you'd think to start a quest to find some of the most traditionally Republican territory in America. The biggest county in America is also one of its more diverse and democratic. But if you take a short train ride south,
thank you,
the politics can seem a world apart.
It used to be that when you're going from LA to Orange County, you cross through what I guess political pundits would call the orange curtain, because you'd go from a very Democratic area into a very Republican area. But this year, back in Washington, the Democrats are hoping that's changing. So you all live in Orange County?
Yes.
If you watch the news, all you hear about is Brett Kavanaugh, right? The guy
yes,
who's...
that's
What, Gloria?
No, that's all you hear about. So, you know, it's hard to think about something else, and all you hear is about Kavanaugh.
Do you think that that's what you're going to be thinking about when you go into the polling booth on Election Day?
I hope not.
You hope not?
No, I hope not.
What are the things you'd rather be thinking about?
Traffic and pollution.
Traffic and pollution.
We hopped off the train in Irvine so we, like good Californians, could carpool with the rest of our team. Democrats' hopes of winning here hinges, at least in part, on turning out people of color and young voters. So we headed to the local University of California campus.
This is In-N-Out Burger, legendary California institution. If you want to know what Californians think, this is where you have to come. What do people care about in Irvine?
Myself and a lot of my friends are like minorities, so we're a lot into like minority rights and stuff.
Are there enough of you guys to actually flip the district?
I hope so.
Bus stop at UC Irvine. There are, I think, 26,000 kids that go to school here. And if the Democrats can get all of them to vote for them, then maybe Republicans will be in trouble in this district. But I don't know. Sorry, not to be annoying, but we're with NBC News, and I'm just trying to figure out, is anybody here going to vote in the election on November 6th? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody's going to vote? Is anybody going to vote in the congressional election in November? You are. Thank you, sir. Yeah. What do you care about?
What do I care about?
Yeah.
School.
School. What about you? I'll walk you to the bus stop. You guys get on this bus?
Yeah.
So if you were going to vote, what is the thing that's going to get your vote?
Probably school and expensive.
I was going to say, you're not talking about the issues that people talk about on the news all the time. The Russia investigation, the Supreme Court. You don't watch that stuff?
I don't watch it.
Now, are you registered to vote?
Not yet.
Not yet. How old are you?
18.
18. So this could be your first election.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you could decide whether or not the House of Representatives is in Democratic or Republican control. Are you thinking about all that?
Not currently. Maybe if I took more time to like get informed about like what's going on right now in politics. I assume that the people voting have at least some idea of who they're voting for.
Are you going to vote?
I should. We're like the most unreliable voter demographic, so I should vote to like increase those numbers, you know?
Well, that's what the Democrats want. But they can't count on you guys necessarily.
No. Slowly, if you keep asking us these questions, the rest of the people our age are going to keep doing it. Like, oh man, better vote. All the old people are telling us to vote now.
Oh, am I old?
No.
Older, sorry.
Dude.
It is Wednesday, the 10th of October of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Hey, wow, do I have a little touch of laryngitis? I might. It's certainly scratchy from whatever late summer cold or slight flu that I've contracted. So I apologize for that. I hope that you will bear through this, the vocal modulations. All right. Well. Trump went into the pages of USA Today and penned an op-ed. Well, someone did. It wasn't John Barron. It wasn't John Miller. It was someone in his shop. Could it have been, I don't know, Stephen Miller? Could it have been, I don't know, Bill Shine? Or could it have been a team effort with those two and others? Yeah. Well, apparently, we Democrats are illegal alien commies from Venezuela. Okay, because there's no, according to Trump, there's no moderate Democrats. We're all a bunch of violent commies who are going to go to Rand Paul's house and kill him and his wife in bed, and that's why she needs to have a gun next to her bed, because of how violent the left is. Now, last I checked, it's not really the left running into people's homes and killing them in their sleep. I'm just saying. So, Mrs. Rand Paul, I'd be careful with that gun, especially if you have it next to your bed. A very bad place to keep it. Somebody could get hurt, especially considering what happened to your husband with the neighbor. Okay? I'm just saying. And Rand Paul basically is afraid that this violent political rhetoric is going to get somebody killed. Well, it already has. I mean, I suppose we could start from even before Tiller the Baby Killer. If you want to talk about violent political rhetoric, somebody died there. In fact, he had attempted murders on his life several times before the final one. You know? And it wasn't liberals coming into his church, shooting him in the head. Mrs. Rand Paul. I think what she's afraid of, you know, when I hear this term like in a derogatory way, Antifa, you mean being anti-fascist is wrong? They are the scary ones? Yeah, the propaganda is strong with that one. All right. Well, looks like Trump also personally lobbied Abe, the Japanese prime minister, to approve Sheldon Adelson's casino there. He's got a big old casino project. And Adelson has given Trump a lot of money, and now the chips have to be cashed in. All right, you got to pay it back. You got to pay for those chips, Donnie. Well. You know, he has a problem paying off his debts. So this one's more like a barter. You know, all he has to do is ask the Japanese PM. You know, come on, give Adelson's casino project, a good look, and then approve it, okay? And we'll be friends. Otherwise, might be a trade war, which we will touch upon in the body of our stories today that we've curated for you. And a respected Republican GOP pollster says that the red wave is not going to happen because nice Midwestern voters have turned on Trump. Nice. Sort of like when the real silent majority finally got upset at the Vietnam War, and that war stopped. Do not rile up the real silent majority. Okay? It's a slumbering giant, and you'll be sorry if you waken it. Don't poke. All right, what's on the rest of the menu here today? In West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Well, starting off, MSNBC sent out their reporter to ask some California voters in Orange County, what's up? Now, of course, he landed in L.A., went to the Union train station, right next to Alvarado Street. He should have roamed around that area a bit. And he did talk to some folks on their way to Orange County and down the Amtrak line. It ends at San Diego and comes back up, just so you know. Asked some voters on the train what was important to them. And then decided, here's a UC school. University of California schools are known bastions of liberal heat. Except not UC Irvine. Come on, you're in Orange County. And the apathy, the ignorance, I don't know. It's a little different than when I went to college, okay? And it may just be my confirmation bias, but it seemed like there were a lot more people engaged, at least on the campuses that I attended. But then when I remember back, it was still only a few people until, the snowball got so big that it continued rolling, and then the vast silent majority of America woke up. So, a little disheartening. These kids don't even register to vote. They don't know what the issues are. They actively ignore the issues. And what's important to them? What's in front of them? Oh, the cost of school. Well, yeah, the cost of school is insane. But the cost of school is going to not really matter if a hostile foreign power has taken us over and you have to learn Cyrillic. And you're a little behind on the curve for that. Trust me. On the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, the House GOP smears military veterans as anti-American in its new attack ads. Oh, they love the vets, don't they? ICE released hundreds of asylum seekers on the U.S. border with nowhere to go. And an official says, this is the beginning of the floodgates. Basically, the dam breaking. The dam is breaking. They have no place to put them, even though they've built this private industrial prison complex of tents. They still don't have enough places to put all of the people seeking asylum, and they're just going to let them go along the border. Figure it out yourself. Just don't get any water that's been left out for you. That is a crime. And the Ford Motor Company is set to lay off 24,000 workers as a result of Trump's trade war. Tariffs always come back to hurt you, don't they? After the break, we move to the chef's table where the Supreme Court, just as they got Kavanaugh on the court, imperiled Heidi Heitkamp's reelection bid in North Dakota by making it even more difficult to vote. Well, that's some get back now, isn't it? And the main office of the Russian troll factory responsible for the pro-Trump 2016 election meddling is torched by an arsonist. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. With only, 27 days until we vote, you better. And you know what? There's early voting right now as I speak. So if you go to our homepage at edwardsradio.com, there are links there in which to determine if you're registered to vote. And if there's still time in your state to register to vote if you're not registered to vote for any reason. And there's also a link there to vote. So please do that. And in spite of the fact that a lot of these UC Irvine kids eating In-N-Out burgers, by the way, he goes to the In-N-Out burger on campus to talk to these kids about he being Sobolov, I guess, the guy from MSNBC at the top there. just to clear up a bit of that story, goes to the In-N-Out Burger space there on the UC Irvine campus and asks these kids about their political inclinations. And he thinks that if you want to know how Californians think, you got to go to In-N-Out Burger. No, if you want to know how Californians think, you don't go to In-N-Out Burger. Okay? In-N-Out Burger is a burger franchise, and I got to tell you, yeah, a lot of Californians like it, but it's not a cross-section of California. Let's be clear. All right. There's more people going to Carl's Jr., which is also a California burger franchise. And we all know about Carl's Jr. with their burger babes. All right. If you want to know how Californians think, I don't know. Don't go to In-N-Out Burger to get a cross-section of America. I'm just saying. So go vote. We have to vote, in spite of the fact that those UC Irvine kids at In-N-Out Burger apparently don't care. They got more important things to think about. Okay? They're kids. If you then go to the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, to the rightish of the page is the chat room link monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Do check out her shows on Saturday. The first one is At the Table with Kelly Lincoln, and that begins at 3 p.m. on the West Coast, 6 p.m. on the East Coast. Later on, she teams up with Ricky for the Roundtable Roundhouse Power Hour, and that is from 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. Do check those shows out. To the leftish of the chat room link at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com is the contribute button. Do please become a Patreon to Netroots Radio. When we made the transition from the old account to this newer account, we did lose some people. And if you could possibly go back and re-up, that would be very helpful, please. We are in dire need, and your generosity is not only very much appreciated, we can't do this without you. So thank you very much. You can follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio. Follow us on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Codes about 10 minutes before showtime. Follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West. Check us out over on Facebook. You can pick up podcasts of the show by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeart, TuneIn, YouTube, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. Okay, this first article here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is by the great Carol Lenore out of Share Blue Media. Now, look, the Republicans are facing an electoral bloodbath. And as evidenced in Trump's op-ed in USA Today, they're resorting to shameful smears, outright lies, in a last-ditch effort to maintain their death grip on power. Well, today's Republican Party isn't exactly known for its civility or honesty, but if you thought the GOP could not sink any lower, think again. Apparently, fearing that electoral bloodbath in November, House Republicans have released a series of ads attacking their Democratic opponents, many of whom happen to be military veterans and former intelligence officers. And they're questioning their patriotism, smearing them as anti-American, and even falsely labeling them as terrorist sympathizers. The ads are funded by the National Republican Congressional Committee and the Congressional Leadership Fund. In one ad, Republicans slam House candidate Jason Crow, a Colorado Democratic candidate who received a Bronze Star for heroism in the Iraq War and an award for being a Lawyer of the Year for his veterans advocacy work. And they have falsely claimed that he neglected Colorado voters and veterans. Virginia Democrat Abigail Spanberger, a former CIA operative who risked her life fighting terrorists, is targeted in another act, citing the fact that she once taught at a school where 2 terrorists once attended. The GOP falsely accuses the nearly 10-year CIA veteran of being a terrorist sympathizer. Well, I don't know. Who taught Jason Roof? What are they? Several other ads target military veterans, calling their patriotism into question based on deceptive insinuations and, in some cases, patently false claims about the candidate. The ads reflect the desperation of the Republican Party as November approaches, and a strong field of Democratic candidates threatens to take control of the House away from the dysfunctional GOP. Many of the Democrats targeted in the ads are new to politics and come with a strong record of service, leaving Republicans scrambling to find something, anything, to use against them. The GOP's shameful attempt to maintain their death grip on power by taking aim at military veterans and former intelligence officials has drawn swift rebukes from clergy members, local radio stations, and newspapers, and even former Republican House members. If Republicans had any shame, this would be the time to show it. Instead, they've chosen to take a page from the Trump playbook, hurling racist smears, deceptively edited footage, and outright falsehoods in the general direction of voters, apparently hoping something will stick. Unfortunately for Republicans, most voters are looking for more than outrage when they go to the polls, which explains why so many voters are looking away from the Republican Party. Joshua Eaton of Think Progress brings us this next offering here at the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Will no one rid me of this priest? The Trump administration released hundreds of asylum seekers in Arizona this week without following protocols to ensure they can reunite with relatives or get to their court date. This is the start of a dam breaking. A senior official in the Department of Homeland Security told NBC News, "You will start to see this all across the southern border soon." ICE began releasing migrants from swelling family detention centers without reviewing their travel plans on Sunday in order to comply with a court settlement. That settlement, called the Flores Agreement, governs how long and under what conditions the government can detain migrant children and their families. The Trump administration has blamed the agreement for its short-lived policy of separating children from parents who cross the southwest border illegally. Now, they didn't cross the border illegally. They claimed asylum, and they went to a border patrol area to do that. Damn it. The administration has proposed new rules on immigrant detention that could result in detaining children and their families longer, but for now, the Flores settlement remains in place. The migrants have ankle monitors to track their whereabouts, but it's not clear where they will go or who will care for them, especially if the surge in abrupt releases becomes a flood. They're going to release him and say, "Oh my God, there's all these terrible rapists and murderers all around, and they're brown. They're going to kill us in our sleep. Let's keep guns next to our bed." Over the weekend, the weight of the new policy fell on churches and other local nonprofits that had to pick up the slack by providing food, shelter, and transportation to reunite with their families. One church representative who spoke with NBC News and asked not to be named, since ICE brought 100 migrants to her church on Monday night after getting notice over the weekend. No one has told the church what policy is driving the decision. They just know the number of people they're helping now has more than doubled. Well, ICE and DHS came right out and said, hey, maybe the ACLU should work at reuniting these families. They know a lot more about it than we do. Which is a damn lie, because the government has a lot more resources. The woman at the church said, "We're all sitting here, all volunteers, all running around making sure we have enough pizza to feed lunch to everyone. We spend so much time with the minutia that we really don't know what's going on. Trump has ridiculed asylum seekers, and his administration has moved to make the asylum process more difficult and more burdensome on those seeking refuge in the U.S. from what is often serious danger in their home countries. Martin of Share Blue Media brings us this last offering here at the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. You know, Obama saved the auto industry, but Trump's policies are leading to layoffs and financial losses. Trump's trade war is also a war on American workers, including workers at iconically American companies like Ford. Ford has already lost $1 billion thanks to Trump's trade war. And now the American automaker is looking at thousands of layoffs as part of a reorganization plan. The exact number of layoffs is unknown, but is estimated to be about 24,000 workers worldwide, and that's according to a recent analysis by Morgan Stanley. Ford has already warned that Donald Trump's auto tariffs have impacted the company to the tune of $1 billion, and Trump's trade policies threaten to play havoc with Ford's ongoing reorganization, Ford CFO Bob Shanks told NBC News. The popular Ford Mustang could also be on the chopping block as a direct result of Trump's trade war with China. The Mustang has been the most popular U.S. car in China before the country imposed tariffs on American-made vehicles in response to Trump's tariffs. Now Ford may have to cut production on its most iconically American car, which would also mean a reduction of U.S. jobs. Trump will just attack them like he attacked Harley Davidson. Come on. Trump's actions are a striking contrast with what President Obama did to save the American auto industry just a decade ago. After the 2008 Great Recession, U.S. automakers were in deep trouble. General Motors was in the most trouble, but if GM went under, then the ripple effect would have led to a partial collapse of the supplier industry that would lead to a 50% drop in production at Ford and the American-based foreign car plants. Now, that was a PolitiFact noted back in the day. In 2012, Ford CEO Alan Mulally said if GM and Chrysler would have gone into freefall, they could have taken the entire supply base into freefall also and taken the U.S. from a recession into a depression. President Obama's actions to save jobs in the auto industry gained bipartisan praise, including from The Economist and even the very conservative Heritage Foundation. Now, Trump, on the other hand, is wreaking havoc in the auto industry and pushing Ford into cutting production and laying off workers. Ford is far from the only business to suffer under Trump's ill-advised trade war. Factories are shutting down and sending jobs to Mexico. Companies like Whirlpool and Harley-Davidson are seeing huge economic losses, and farmers across the country are struggling. But if you listen to Trump, the economy's doing so great. How can they not vote for me ever again? No, they have to vote for me. The economy's great. Well, it's great if you own a 500-foot mega yacht. The trade war was even making recovery from natural disasters more expensive for homeowners in the Carolinas trying to rebuild after Hurricane Florence. Some economic experts question whether Trump even know how tariffs work. Well, he doesn't even know how the government works, so how would he know how tariffs work? He's an idiot. But whether or not Trump understands the consequences of his actions, American workers are suffering those consequences every day. All right, let's get to our break. And when we come back, we will go through weather from around the world and finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, film noir meets Mean Girls. The best things about the screen adaptation of the witty dark comedy A Simple Favor are the leads, Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, who elevate their characters to way beyond the caricatures they could have easily become. Both create memorable, complex portrayals of women who aren't exactly what they appear to be. At first glance, the two couldn't appear more different. Kendrick Stephanie is a widowed mother who creates a world of tranquil domesticity, both via her video channel as well as her hands-on approach towards raising her young son. On the other hand, we have Emily, a successful, hard-drinking New York PR executive who appears to have everything and who has an outsourcing approach to motherhood. Nevertheless, the two become friends, and when Emily goes missing under mysterious circumstances, it's Stephanie who steps into the role of surrogate mother to Emily's son, and later a surrogate wife to her husband Sean, played by Henry Golding of recent Crazy Rich Asians fame. On the way to finding out what happens to Emily, we're treated to a tale where twists and turns abound, some funny and some pretty disturbing, all of which make for a truly suspenseful ride. Many will identify with Stephanie's character, who is coping with raising a child with insufficient support, but who nonetheless wants to be the sort of mom that society praises. But being this way, and being eager for adult friendship, leads her to falling into doormat territory, arguably where her troubles begin, when the sophisticated Emily shows interest in her. Likewise, Emily shows how motherhood doesn't necessarily alter a woman's core character. There's nothing simple about A Simple Favor. With Stephanie's vlog, a wonderfully cheesy detective, and cutesy postscript, director Paul Feig navigates a dark story that still manages to offer some solid laughs. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Steve Mirsky.
The first thing is that people have to come to grips with the difficulties we face. I think the scientists have, and many of the people have, but the governments have to.
Yale University's William Nordhaus, who on October 8th shared the 2018 Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences for integrating climate change into long-run macroeconomic analysis. He spoke by phone to a representative of the Nobel Prizes.
And then the second thing that's most important is that we take some kind of economic steps. I have advocated for many years a carbon tax as a way of implementing policies. And then the third thing is we'll have to have a significant technological transformation. Of course, those first two would help the third, but those three have to go together. You can't do it without public support, but you can't do it without some kind of economic signals in the form of a carbon tax. And then all of those will help induce the technological changes that are necessary to make a transition to a low-carbon world.
Nordhaus shared the prize with Paul Romer of New York University for his work integrating technological innovations into long-run macroeconomic analysis. Nordhaus continued,
The most recent work I've done is studying actual trends in abatement and in policies suggests we're doing much less than needs to be to reach any of the targets, whether it's a 1.5 degree or 2 degree or even a 3 degree target. I think the policies are lagging very, very far, miles behind the science and what needs to be done. But it's not too late. But the steps we have to take are more difficult now than if we'd started earlier.
For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Steve Mirsky.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
In 2017, approximately 1 in 6 high school students reported a sports or physical activity-related concussion. Immediate symptoms of a concussion include headache, nausea, and double vision. Long-term, the effects of such injuries, particularly those that are more severe, can be life-changing. Healthcare providers, coaches, trainers, and parents should be aware of the symptoms of a concussion and how to treat them. A concussion protocol should be developed that includes withholding an athlete from practice and competition until all symptoms are resolved. While concussions cannot always be prevented, they can be treated in a way that decreases the chances of long-term health problems. Thank you for joining us on A Minute of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO. This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Heart disease and stroke can be catastrophic. They're leading causes of death, disability, and healthcare spending in the U.S., yet they're largely preventable. Alarmingly, heart disease and stroke are taking a toll on middle-aged adults 35 to 64, with over 800,000 deaths and hospitalizations in 2016. Million Hearts is a national initiative focused on preventing 1 million heart attacks, strokes, and other cardiovascular events by 2022. Coordinated actions by Million Hearts partners in communities, healthcare, and public health will keep people healthy, optimize care, and improve outcomes in populations at risk. Everyone has a part to play. Focus on the ABCs of heart health. A. Aspirin use when appropriate. B. Blood pressure control. C. Cholesterol management. And S. Smoking cessation. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/vital signs.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO. This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
For an expectant mother, taking care of her developing baby means taking good care of herself. One way she can do this is by ensuring she gets vaccinated. If a woman is or might be pregnant during flu season, it's especially important to get her annual flu shot, preferably before the end of October. In addition, women should be vaccinated against whooping cough during the 3rd trimester of each pregnancy. Failure to get vaccinated places both mother and baby at increased risk for serious complications of these infections, including hospitalization and even death. If you're pregnant or planning to get pregnant, ask your healthcare provider when you should get your vaccines. Thank you for joining us on A Minute of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This is an important message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. After a storm or disaster, it's important to eat only safe food. Throw away perishables like meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and leftovers stored above 40 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours or more. Throw away food with an unusual odor, color, or texture. Throw away food that may have come in contact with floodwater, including food in swollen, punctured, and damaged cans. When in doubt, throw it out.
You can help stop the Trump agenda in its tracks. Make sure you're registered to vote. Go to rockthevote.org. And on November 6th, vote for Democrats up and down the ticket. This message, a public service from all the fine people of netrootsradio.com.
Listen, can you hear it? Listen to the eerie sound of silence from the trumpeteers and congressional Republicans who so loudly cheered themselves just a year ago for bestowing $1 trillion tax giveaway on corporate elites. They told us they did it not for the rich, but to help the middle class and poor families. How would enriching the already rich benefit the rest of us? Trickle-down economics 101, said Trump and company, explaining that giving more money to elites would spark, quote, an immediate jump in wage growth. because CEOs would use their bonanza to reward workers for their productivity. The White House even got specific, declaring that average pay would jump as much as $9,000 per person. But here we are in the thick of the 2018 congressional elections, and silence. Not a single lawmaker who voted for this grand ideological promise is mentioning it, much less running ads touting their role and hammering the plan into law. Why so shy? Because their trickle-down giveaway was a crude hoax from the start. CEOs spent the GOP's trillion-dollar boondoggle on lifting their own exorbitant pay. Moneyed elites got the gold mine, working families got the shaft. Far from a $9,000 income boost, the workaday majority of Americans now find that their hourly earnings are lower than a year ago. But who cares? Being a trumpeter Republican means never admitting your lies and never apologizing. Steve Mnuchin, a former Wall Street banker who's now the Treasury Secretary, is a perfect example of a blasé, ethically challenged Trump huckster. He recently shrugged off the failure of the bloated tax cut to raise working people's income. Wages are going up on some people, he declared disingenuously. This is Jim Hightower saying, yeah, for multimillionaires like him. Yet he wonders why most Americans despise him and his ilk.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
This is Solidarity News on Radio Labour.
I'm Mark Boulanger. In the United States, one of the public services targeted for privatization by right-wing politicians is the Postal Service. Despite it being in the U.S. Constitution as a right for all citizens, the Postal Service has been under attack for years. One of the problems the privatizers have in convincing the public of their position is that the Postal Service does not receive any public money at all. It makes money. So one of the tactics of the privatizers has been to make the service put away huge amounts of money for future pensions and other benefits. It is highly unlikely that this money will ever be used because the service would not be allowed to hire the large number of employees that would need the benefits. This fund now sits at $75 billion. $75 billion. The American Postal Workers Union has been organizing a national campaign to tell the public what's been going on. On October 8th, it organized a national day of protest. Steve Zeltzer of the Labor Video Project based in San Francisco interviewed some of the workers at a demonstration in support of keeping the U.S. Postal Service in public hands.
I'm Ed Fletcher from the National Association of Letter Carriers, Branch 1111. We're here today to send a message to Congress that the U.S. Postal Service is not for sale. It is America's Postal Service. It's not a partisan issue. There's no money used for taxes. We look after the senior citizens on the route. We give back to the community. Letter carriers are fabric of the community. The current White House administration is proposing to privatize the Postal Service, so we want to get the message out to all of our customers and all of their constituents to let Congress know, again, that the U.S. Postal Service is not for sale. We also hire a large amount of veterans. These veterans were the most, I think in the civil service, we hire the most amount of veterans, which is a good thing as well. So again, that's what we're about. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing these rallies, and these rallies are here across the nation for the national.
This is a day of rallying to protect the post office?
Yes, it is, against any efforts to privatize the United States Postal Service.
How would it affect the postal workers? I mean, a large number of public workers work for the post office. How would their living conditions be affected if it was privatized?
They'd be grossly affected because what would happen is they would come in, get rid of all of the postal workers. They would privatize it. Companies would come in and just hire low-paid workers to take care and to do the job. That's exactly what they would do. So benefits, wages are gone. These are good middle-class jobs, American middle-class jobs that help the economy. We need more middle-class jobs. But again, this is the service, the Postal Service, and they would not care about service. They would care about profits.
It's even in the Constitution, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is part of the Constitution. We'd like to keep it that way. to provide universal service at a universal rate. What they want is just to make money, to take like the big cities like Oakland, San Francisco, wherever the most profitable areas are. And the areas that would suffer is those in the valleys and the outlining areas. And, whether it's getting medicine to those boxes, to those customers, it would affect all of that. So, yeah, they want to make money and sell out the Postal Service. And it's just greed in the end rather than service to our customers. To me, if you go privatize everything, it's a race to the bottom. Again, you get rid of the current wage structure, benefit structure. And what do? You sell out the company, you start all over, and you hire from the bottom. So that obviously affects the economy and all those workers as well.
What's your name? Shirley Taylor. What we're doing today is notifying the public of the Trump's administration to attempt to privatize the Postal Service. And, the Postal Service is not for sale. It's in the Constitution. We don't take any public money at all. So there's no need to privatize it because everybody should get mail service, and it should be universal, and it should be the same for everybody. If they privatize it, it's not going to happen that way. The mail is just sacred.
And that's it. International labor news you can use. You can find more labor news on our website at www.radiolabor.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Labor. I'm Mark Beaumarchais. Thank you for listening. And remember, it's all about global solidarity.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. It is not an anti-Catholic screen. No, it is simply an egg dish with a wonderful hollandaise sauce. All right, weather from around the world always begins along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently, 42 degrees Fahrenheit. It got a lot colder than what it was forecast yesterday. It got so cold, oh my gosh, we actually have a frost advisory in the area. Now, we're a little bit warmer in the microclimate I'm at, but it's still a concern. All right, well, it looks like we're going to be about the same temperature as yesterday, which means we'll be around 70 degrees. Mostly cloudy for most of the day. Winds out of the southwest, light and variable. And will remain light and variable out of the southwest through at least tomorrow morning. What small possibility of precipitation we had has now gone away to absolute zero, so don't give me even a little bit of a 10% hope. Darn. And looks like we don't have any rain in the offing for quite a while, at least a week. Darn. Ragweed pollen right now is moderate. Air quality index is in the good range, but has gone up a bit from yesterday at 16, probably indicative of the cold outside and people burning wood in their fireplaces. And the UV index, daytime UV, is at 4, and that's rated as moderate, and that's probably what our fall time angle of the sun will be. Barometric pressure is 29.92 inches. Visibility is down to 5 miles. And relative humidity is 96%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchase. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. London is 72 degrees and sunny. Paris is 77 and sunny, and they have a thunderstorm advisory right now. Even though they're sunny, they have a thunderstorm and lightning advisory. Rome is 74 and fair, and they as well have a thunderstorm, electrical storm advisory that could kick out their electrical grid. Kiev is 58 and fair. Kabul is 57 and fair. Hong Kong is 71 and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 71 with light rain, and they have a wind advisory. Sydney, Australia is 57 and cloudy. San Francisco, California is 52 degrees and fair, and they also have a wind advisory for small craft on the bay and offshore. So do take care. And New York is 73 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchase. These people plan to purchase personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. Offering here at the chef's table of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays, is an article out of Mother Jones by Pema Levy. Now, we do know that Heidi Heitkamp is the most vulnerable Democrat, and she's from North Dakota, and she did vote against Kavanaugh. And now, the Supreme Court seems ready to punish her. Because on Tuesday, they upheld a lower court order requiring voters in North Dakota to present certain forms of identification and proof of their residential address in order to cast a ballot in next month's elections. A case challenging this requirement on behalf of the state's sizable Native American populations alleged that the requirement would disenfranchise tribal residents, many of whom lack the proper ID and do not have residential addresses on their identification cards. Why? Because on the reservation, people get their mail at the post office, in a post office box. And apparently the Supreme Court says a post office box is not good enough. You have to show proof that you get your mail at your residence. And people on the reservation don't get their mail at their residence because the U.S. Postal Service doesn't deliver to the residents. The Supreme Court's order will likely make it harder for Senator Heidi Heitkamp to retain her seat in November. Heitkamp won her seat by less than 3,000 votes in 2012 with strong backing from Native Americans, and she is the only statewide elected Democrat. North Dakota Republicans began changing voting rules to make it harder to cast a ballot months after Heitkamp's victory 6 months ago. Republicans have claimed the changes to voter ID requirements are intended to stop voter fraud, even though impersonal fraud is exceedingly rare. Brett Kavanaugh, who was sworn in on Monday, did not partake in the decision, and Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Elena Kagan dissented. North Dakota's 2017 voter ID law was challenged by Native residents who alleged that the law disproportionately blocked Native Americans from voting. In April, a federal district court judge blocked large portions of the law as discriminatory against Native voters. Quote, "The state has acknowledged that Native American communities often lack residential street addresses," Judge Daniel Hovland wrote. "Nevertheless, under current state law, an individual who does not have a current residential street address will never be qualified to vote." According to the website of the Native American Rights Fund, which represents the plaintiffs, Native residents lack residential street addresses because the U.S. Postal Service does not provide residential delivery in rural Indian communities. As a result, tribal IDs use post office boxes, which are not sufficient under North Dakota's new law. How convenient, isn't it? A specification that seems designed to disenfranchise Native voters. Hovland's ruling was in place during the primaries this spring, but in September, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals allowed the law to go into effect. The Supreme Court upheld that ruling yesterday, and in her dissent, Ginsburg argued that the Supreme Court's order was at odds with one of the top court's most frequently invoked doctrines on election law, not to change the rules right before the election. By allowing a different set of ID rules in the general election from the primary, Ginsburg warned, the court was risking widespread confusion and disenfranchisement. And the Republican members of the court said, well, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Thank you for corroborating that. They said that in this reporter's opinion, but you know that's exactly what they're doing. The risk of voter confusion appears severe because the injunction against requiring residential address identification was enforced during the primary election, and because the Secretary of State's website announced for months the ID requirements as they existed under that injunction. And Ginsburg wrote that. Reasonable voters may well assume that the IDs allowing them to vote in the primary would remain valid in the general. If the Eighth Circuit stay is vacated, the risk of disenfranchisement is large. Now, Ginsburg noted that according to the factual record of the case, about 20% of voters likely to cast a ballot in the midterms will lack the required identification. Another approximately 18,000 North Dakota residents also lack supplemental documentation sufficient to permit them to vote without a qualifying ID, she noted. Voter suppression obviously is a tactic that Republicans will use because of their death grip on power.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
Finishing up here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is an article out of Raw Story by Martin Sismer. On Tuesday, an arsonist hit the offices of the Internet Research Agency, the Putin-tied Russian troll factory that has been charged by Robert Mueller with meddling in the 2016 presidential election. According to the Moscow Times and video posted by the troll farm, an unknown suspect broke into the first floor of the Russian intelligence operation and threw a Molotov cocktail inside around 3 a.m. on Tuesday. One of the media sites run by the trolls, the Federal News Agency, posted surveillance footage of the incident. I believe this is tied to fans' activities, operative Yevgeny Zubarev said. We're most often attacked online, but these types of attacks have already taken place offline. There was reportedly another arson attack preceding the rigged March election, which kept Russian dictator Vladimir Putin in office. And American authorities say the firm is directed by Yevgeny Prigozhin, Putin's cook. And he has been indicted on charges of defrauding the U.S. government by interfering with its election process. Well, well, well. That brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. But of course, you know that Netroots Radio broadcasts on with all that breaking news, and we will visit with you tomorrow for Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays, indeed. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio for the rest of the day and all night for all that breaking news as it breaks. And we will visit with you tomorrow in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.